and the result or the results of the CBA's or cost benefit analysis will be based on to decide that you will apply or not apply quality assurance certification. You can see in the first line, this is the profit if you apply. So we have the premium, the added premium is defined as B, and here's the quantity of harvest or capture, and here's the input quantity, here's the input price, and if we here here's the price with the new price with the application, and plus if we plus the what's it B? This is the additional price for certified product, and here's our revenue, new revenue, and here's our cost, our production cost, and if we minus the cost for application, and here's the profit, we will have the profit when we apply the quality assurance certificate. Otherwise, if we don't apply, we will have also have the price, also have the revenue, also have the cost. And if we identify the gap, the difference between apply and non-apply scenarios, we will have the delta profit, delta B. And if delta B is larger than 0, it means that the benefits from quality application is yes. Otherwise, if that's those difference equal or less than 0, we conclude that there's no benefits from application of quality assurance certificate. Here's the framework. Here and here's one of example. If you want to apply MSc certificate, you have to list on cost of certification. Beside the operating costs, you have to list on cost if you want to apply the MSc certificate. And also you have to list on benefits of certification. You can, after you apply, you can get the benefits in monetary, because your product, the price of your product can be increased, something like it, or you can expand your market share in your countries or in the world. And plus, beside that, you also can get the non-monetary benefits. Example, reputation, or example, enhance the co-management. So after you list on costs and benefits, you can decide to apply quality assurance or not apply. By what? By you can plus monetary benefits plus non-monetary benefits. And if those larger than total cost, you can apply. You can apply the certificate. You can decide to apply. However, you have the most attention, the most important attention here is how can we recognize the monetary benefits and non-monetary benefits. Maybe you can think monetary benefit is easy to recognize. Don't have to think more, because the price will be increased and we can calculate very easy. No, not easy, because our product now is tentative products and it's non-market product. And consumer actually at the beginning they cannot imagine what is the new products and what is the difference between the product with certificate and non-certificate. They cannot recognize the difference. So it's very hard for us to estimate the new price or the additional price. And it means that it's very hard to calculate the gap or the difference between the cost and benefit in this analysis. For the non-monetary benefits, it's more difficult to identify, I think. Like you can improve reputation or you can enhance co-management. For what? How can we calculate the our reputation is increased or not increased? And how can we calculate the enhanced level in the supply chain or something like this? For the cost, it's easy because we have the operating cost and we also have the cost of certification. We can list all costs, but for benefit, it's very hard to identify because it's in the future. After we apply and after our product sell to the consumer, we have to think about their preference as well. Our product can be applied certification and we think it's important, but for consumer, if they don't care about that, as we already discussed in the last lecture, we cannot to sell our product even though it's already applied certificate. And that's why here's the problems of cost benefit analysis for our products, for our seafood products when we want to apply quality assurance is the price premium will be stayed by consumers or customers in the future. So in the current time, we have to decide to apply or not to expect that in the future we can get the premium, we can get a higher price. But how can we measure, or how can we estimate, or how can we value the consumer's willingness to pay for our product with the application of certificates? That is the most problem because we have to invest or we have to apply at the current time, and the benefit will be gained in the future. And now we have to estimate or we have to value at the current time. So in economic science, actually we have a technique for measurements or estimation or valuation. Actually we have two main techniques. First is review reference, and the second is stay reference. But for the first reference is easy because those will be applied for market product. When we have the product already, we can base on the market price, we can base on the production function, we can base on the avoid cost. We can it means that we can calculate the operating cost, manufacturing cost to calculate and estimate the price and value the price actually. Or we can base on the hydronic pricing methods. It means that we base on their own products, their own characteristics of the product to value the price of the products. Or we can base on the travel cost. How much money we have to pay to get the products for transaction or something like that. We can calculate on. Actually, if we have the products already in the market, we can very easily observe in the market and value it. But because here's our product is in non-tentative, non-market product, it means that this is the tentative product. So we have to use the second method, is stay preference. Here is the stay preference is it's based on the unrealistic methods. We have to have the hypothetical hypothetical this is hypothetical methods, because we have to hypothesis we have the hypothesis to assume that consumer they can buy our product. But actually you can ask me that, or you can argue that, you can confuse that. Okay, if I don't have money, how can I buy your product? But because this method is hypothetical product, so when we apply this method to evaluate the non-market product, we have to assume that the respondent or our consumers have enough income, enough money to buy our product, and you will ask me why we don't calculate the cost, and we can calculate all costs, and we can value our product by ourselves. But here's the cost: we can have our cost, and we can value our product price first. But this is the how can I say, willingness to sell, our willingness to sell. But how about the consumer's willingness to pay? If the price which we will sell is larger than expectation of consumer, they will not buy our product. So that's why we have to think about the scale preference to estimate the consumers or customer willingness to pay, and it's applied for non-market product. And in the scale preference, you can see, if you read the material about in relation of scale preference, you can see the contingent valuation methods or choice experiment method or ranking. I will give you an example design of double bound choice experiments based on my research, like this. Yeah. But first of all, let's go very briefly about the scale reference approach, because today we have a topic about design of experiment. Yeah. For the scale preference approach, we will have contingent valuation by open end. You can ask the respondent, how can you pay? How much will you pay for our product with this attribute? Or close end, you can give the respondent a price as your scenario first, and then consumers or respondent will answer they will buy or not buy. Or you can design the choice experiments. The choice experiment, you can decide one or two products, similar product, and the respondent will choose which one they prefer, and they choose. After they choose the product, the choice, they can give the price. Or you can design the ranking, the choice ranking. I mean that you give the respondent 3 or 4 or 5 or 10, depend on you, the scenarios, and then the respondent will rank which one they will prefer from the first to the end. Yeah. And the main purpose of those methods to get the willingness to pay of the consumers or the willingness to accept of producers. You can apply for both sides. For the producer, you can ask them how much will you accept to apply for MSC or for ASC, or how for my example, for in the next slide, you can see I apply this method, but for producer side, because for consumer side, actually so many research have be applied to get the willingness to pay for consumers. And the most important things I mentioned before, when you apply those methods, you have to think about the target consumers, target respondents are very important, because when which market will you focus in the future, and how about and you have to think about the income. If they don't have money, okay, they cannot give you the price. So you have to carefully choose the respondents. Based on your plan or based on your product will produce in the future. Yeah, and in the valuation, you have to ask consumer what they would be willing to pay for change in food quality, or what they would be willing to pay for the food with certification. Or from the producer side, where you have to ask them what they would be willing to accept for application of quality assurance certificate like ASC or MSC or Global Gap, something like this. Okay, and here's one of example withdraw from my study. You can see I apply this methods to get the willingness to accept for implementation of traceability. But at the beginning, as we discussed in the last lecture, traceability is very new definition in Vietnam, especially for stream or fisheries producers, so fisheries farmers. So I have to I have to describe about traceability first, and then I ask them first, are you willing to implement traceability? Before and after my explanation. And maybe before I explain, they say no, but after I explain, they know about the traceability, and they say, okay, after your explanation, I understood and I will implement traceability in the future. And from this question, I can recognize the reference, and I can recognize the difference between the perception and the importance of perception of farmers in implementation of traceability. From this figure, I already published a paper only for the perception of traceability. I actually one paper about the perception and one paper about the willingness to implement. And by this figure, I can recognize their perception, the role of perception in the implementation of traceability. Actually, at the beginning, I just asked the farmer, are you willing to implement traceability in your farming? Okay, they answer no. But after I explain about traceability again, and they will say yes. Yeah, and then after this, I will have the procedure to collect the data. Here's my design. Actually, before this procedure, I already have the pilot survey and modify my questionnaires already. And here, continue. If after explanation, they have perception about traceability, and they say, okay, they will implement traceability. If they say no, I will stop interview. But if they say yes, I will continue by this question. What is minimum price you expect to implement traceability. Because actually, based on the literature review and based on the pilot survey, if first at the beginning, I asked them how much will you willing you accept to implement traceability, but they don't have any how can I say, how they don't have any function, they don't have any basis to give their answer. Because at the beginning I asked them how much based on what, they don't have any basic. So after this, I change my question. I ask about the price. When they apply, because when they apply the traceability, they expect their product will be their product's price will be increased. And that's why I asked them how and what is the minimum price you expect to implement traceability. And here's the main procedure of the experiment. Yeah, in the survey, actually, please don't consider about the amount of those number. I just give you as the example. Like the first batch, I give them 100 rupiah in Indonesia. It's the number only example for your imaging. Actually, this is the procedure. In the survey, each farmer have 2 times for choice, because I do double bound choice experiment. So because we want to stay the minimum price green farmer willing to implement traceability. So I give the farmer the ticket with the first bird, the first bid. And if they agree with my first bid, I will give them the second ticket with a lower, because here's the producer side. If you apply this method for consumer side, you will give the consumer for an upper bid in the second times. Amazing. And if they don't agree with my first bid, I will give them the second ticket with the sorry again. When at the beginning, I give them the first bid, and if they agree, I will give them a lower. And if they don't agree, I will give them the upper. Amazing, because we are asking for producer, and we are asking the minimum price. But when you apply this method for the consumer, it means that you will ask them what is the maximum price will you pay for our product. It means that at the first bid, if you they agree, you will give them upper. And otherwise, if you don't agree, you will give the consumer a lower bid, the opposite way. And here's the second choice. If they agree with the first and the second with the lower bid, their expected price will be confirmed at this price. Otherwise, if they don't agree with the second price, their willingness to accept or willingness to implementation will be confirmed at the first bid. For the second scenarios, when they agree they don't agree at the first bid, and then I give them an upper bid, but if they agree with the second bid, their willingness or their expectation will be confirmed at the second bid. Otherwise, their expectation is infinity. This is the procedure of experiment. And then maybe you will confuse that where is the first bit and lower bit. Actually, I have to design 5 scenarios for extreme. Because I have 2 kinds of extreme in my research. So I have the 5 scenarios of the first bit, down and upper. And how can I design? I have to base on the historical data from the local authorities to design the scenarios and ask them in the pilot survey, ask the is available or not, or it suitable or not, and they will comment. The local authorities comment those scenarios. In this case, if you design the scenarios, design a wrong scenarios, your results will be biased, and you cannot correct the true results. Something like this. It means if in this interval, how can I calculate? From the first bit about only 5, but for the down it's only 4.4, and the upper is 6.2. So it means that if I don't have the exactly method, or I don't have based on the historical data, then this number is given by me, and your result cannot be convinced, and the reviewers or the audience cannot trust about your results. That's why I conclude that designs of scenarios are very important, even though it's not very difficult to design, or the procedure is not very difficult to conduct. But the scenarios, the first scenario, the beginning and the preparation for experiment in our sector, in fisheries sector, is very important, because my topic in relation to supply chain, and you think sometimes we have to, for the supply chain management, we have to follow the rule one step backward and 1 step forward, and sometimes the upstream agents, they only sell their product to only one downstream agent. Like fisheries, fishermen, they only sell their product to 1 or 2 collectors, something like this. So it's very hard to have a large sample size. So at the farmers, you can conduct this kind of survey, but it's required the sample size quite large. If you only have 1 or 2 or less than 30, it's very hard to get this methods. But if you can have the sample size quite large, you can apply this method. And again and again, the design of the scenarios are very important. The procedure is not very complicated, but the design of scenarios are very complicated, and if it's not true or not suitable in the reality, you will get the wrong result. And the methods of data collection, you can, if you apply double bound choice or choice modeling or contingent valuation, you can use face-to-face interview, or you can use email. You can send the email to the respondent. You can send the telex. You can have the phone call to interview them. But the most important is the limitation of state reference are biased. Why? First, from this slide, I can tell you about the methods you will use for the data collection. If you use face-to-face interview, your result will be depend on the interviewers and interviewees. And if you use an indirect methods like email or text or phone, the ratio of response is very important, become the problem. Because when you send the email and you cannot explain, the first is the respondent reply or not reply is the first problem. The second is you cannot explain very clearly about the product to the respondent, because here is the non-market product. So that's why if we don't explain very clearly, the respondent will be confused. What is the product? And what is the product with quality assurance certificate actually? What is the difference? They cannot recognize. Like last lecture, we have the slide, you still remember? Consumer will be confused between products with organic production, product with MSC production, or product with original production. Very hard to recognize or identify the difference. So if you use the indirect interview, you have to carefully to apply this method. You have to explain carefully in questionnaire, and you have to design add more picture, or and you have to use the language, very easy language, to express the function, express the characteristic of your product to the respondents. And yeah, finally, the limitation of state preference is bias. It means that the first limitation is from hypothetical bias, because this is a hypothetical method, so it's very difficult to envision. We have to the limitation in the financial resources to conduct the survey, or the willingness to pay or willingness to accept estimate are too large or too small. And because of the bias from social demand, social desirability, and the limitation, the bias from interview, because as I mentioned, interviewer and interviewees, maybe they will have the confused, or they will have the mistake in the understanding of your scenarios. So if you ask the interviewers, okay, please help me to collect the data by to evaluate our product. So please carefully explain or carefully training to the interviewers. And from the interviewers you can train, but from the interviewees, sometimes because you sit face to face and you just explain, and sometimes they are confused. And because we have the time limit for interview, we cannot say 2 or 3 or 4 hours for interview. No, as my experience, only 30 minutes or 55 minutes is enough. You cannot use face-to-face interview very long, like 2 or 3 hours. No, that's why sometimes interviewees, they don't know, or they don't understand very clearly about your scenarios, and they give the biased answer. And as I already mentioned, the bias from according, this means the scenarios, the starting point of scenarios. Like in this slide, you can see my starting point at 5, but how about if the starting point at 3? Okay, that's why if I design the wrong scenarios, your result will be wrong. Carefully, please, carefully. And the framing bias, it means the context of the scenarios, as I mentioned. And another limitation is that sometimes we can get the willingness to accept from producer side, and also we can get the willingness to pay of consumer, but they're not much. The consumer willingness to pay is very slow, but our willingness to accept is very high, and it didn't match. So our product have to, and we have to think again to decide apply or not. And it's also biased from the strategic of response, because respondent, as I mentioned before, respondent may try to influence public decisions. Okay, if you ask them, so especially farmer and fishermen, if you tell them first, okay, this strategy or this is the policy, you can get subsidy from the government. Okay, they will try to express their answer based on those scenarios. So the respondent can give you the overvalue or undervalue. If they have to pay, they will give the undervalue. And if they don't have to pay, but they can get the subsidy, they will give you an overvalue answer. And the problems of protest response. And sometimes the respondent, they conflict with our scenarios and they don't want to answer. And also they lack of the knowledge about our products or our scenarios. Like that's why, as I introduced you about my research, first of all, I have to think about the explanation of my my research topic about traceability, about the keyword. I have to explain very carefully, and this step was conducted by myself. I cannot ask the interviewers because they don't actually that time I invite my students to help me to collect the data, but because they didn't know about traceability very clearly, so I have to do by myself to explain about traceability to the respondent, to the farmers, before I ask them about the expectation. Yeah, that's because of the limitation of state preference. So after this, I try to read more and carefully read the materials, and then I found another method to get the willingness to pay or willingness to accept for the new product on non-market groups by auction experiments. So what is the auction experiments? Auction experiments have been applied. Actually, this method have been applied to gain the estimation of consumers' willingness to pay of goods with the real money and real goods. I just talk about the non-market goods, but why the work of real goods and real markets appear in the definition? I will tell you the procedure, and you can understand what is the real money and what is the real goods. Yeah, this is the forms of some forms of auction experiments. We have five common forms. The first is open ascending price auction, called as English auction. And here's the auction step. And the winner of this auction, this kind of auction, will be confirmed at lowest or highest price. The sale is conducted by an auctioneer who begins by calling out at a low price first, and then the price will be increased. And in this case, if we start from the low price, and the winner will be confirmed at the highest price. or we also can apply this method. But if you apply for the producer side, you can confirm the winner if they give you a minimum price, and we will start at the high price. But the important is the starting point. It's very important. So even though you use a preference or you use auction, you also have to think about the starting points of the price. The second is open descending price. As I just mentioned, we will start from the highest price, and we will confirm at the lowest price will be the winners. The third one is BDM auction, Baker Group and Marshak auction. We call them as BDM auction. In this auction step, we call this experiment with the name as the random price auction. Random price auction. And the step is first the bidder submits his or her bid, and the bid is compared to the price determined by a random price. We call it market price. And the bid is greater than the price, the market price. If the bid is greater than the price, the bidder pays the price and receives the item being auctioned. Otherwise, bidders pay nothing and receive nothing. And this is the BDM method. And the fourth is in the sealed bid second price auction, or we can call a victory auction. And the auction step is bidders submit bids in the sealed envelope, silent atmosphere. It means that other bidder cannot know about your bid, and the person submitting the highest bid will win the product, but pay at the second bid. And I already applied the auction to get the willingness to pay for Vietnamese consumer for the case of screen product with ASC certification. And you can see very similar screen, but one is not applied to apply for ASC, but one already applied. It's just different. Actually, when we observe, it's just different based on the label printed on the packet. One has ASC logos and one is not. And then actually this just my assumption, because actually in Vietnam now the screen apply ASC is only for export, I think. Yeah, actually with the screen farming who apply ASC, they will sell directly to processing companies, and then they will export to the global market. So when I apply this method for Vietnamese consumer, just want to ask them, are they willing to pay? And I just want to recognize the Vietnamese consumer. Actually, they care about the certifications or not. And because why I apply auction. First is the limitation of state preference valuation technique, as I mentioned. And actually in Vietnam, so many research have been applied to evaluate the quality assurance certification with state preference valuation. And as my experience in the survey, I recognize that in Vietnam there is a significant influence on biddings from the atmosphere and the individual relationship among the bidders. It means that we are reflected by the other so much. So that's why I choose the form of auction in my research is price seal bid and randomly seal price auction methods. It means that in my paper I combine two methods, BDM auction and Vickrey auction. Vickrey auction. It means that in Vickrey auction, because we will give our bid in the silent atmosphere, and the random, the BDM auction method is to choose the random auction, random price. So I combine both methods to apply for my paper. And the procedure, first I will explain about the auction. I will explain about the auction and principles and operation of the auction. The second stage, I will give the time for respondent to practice stay with the pencils. Or last time I have two practice, first for pencil and the second for candy. Yeah, the third one, formal auction, will with two treatment of screen. Yeah, the step of official auction is, first of all, I explain the experimental instructions. Explain the experiment instruction, and each participant will receive $10. That's why I, in the definition about the auction, I mentioned about the real goods and real money, because at the beginning of auction, I will give the respondent the same amount of money to avoid and to exclude the difference in income. Like when, as I mentioned, when we do the experiment in state preference, it depends on the income, because the income of respondent will affect to their behavior. The income of producer will affect to their willingness to accept, to apply the new technology or not. And that's why in the auction, the strengthening of auction, I can exclude it, because I will give the same amount of money to all respondents. And the second strengthening of auction is I don't have to invite the large number of respondents. It means that I can choose the agency group, to join my auction. I don't have to add with the large sampling. And the step one, I will give each respondent have an ID number, and I will give them 500 kilo of 0.5 kilos, means that 500 grams of non-ASC certified screen. And as step 2, I will explain and I will give them another, but my design by myself, and I assume that screen like this and with ASC like this, and I will explain to them by ASC about ASC certification very clearly, and I will give them the time to ask and discussion and explanation about ASC, like focus group. That's why in this case, the respondent can know more clearly about the ASC certification. If you use a preference experiment, you will use the face-to-face interview. So sometimes respondent they shy to ask you again. But in this focus group, you can observe. Actually, you can observe the respondent. Do they understand about ASC or not after your explanation? And you can ask them and you can check them. Like in the lab, in the classroom, we can check our student by some question, and we can know the student already understood, already clear about the subject, about the topics or not. That's why in the auction room, because we will invite the participant join into the room, so we can manage, we can monitor. It's easier to manage. And then I will give them another screen with a barcode and link to the producer's information, the website of producer's information, and they can have, I give them the material, the tools to check the barcode, and they can read the information of the producer's information based on the barcode. And then after this, they will submit the sale price, for the second screen packet. And the auctioneer, after this, after their submission, the auctioneer will grant the willingness to pay with descending order. And then after ranking, auctioneer will post the highest bid, random bid, and lowest bid. It means that at the beginning, the consumers or respondents don't have any information about the price. They just have the information about the price of non-ASC and the information which I provide them about ASC, and then they decide to give the price by themselves, and don't ask the others. They cannot ask the others because the atmosphere of auction is silent. And step 3, we will decide the winners. The auctioneer will select the random number. It means that the random price of auction, and the second highest bidders will have the right to buy at the end price. It means that, like, we have 5 price from 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, and the auctioneer will ranking like this, and they will withdraw one of, will randomly withdraw. And in case that the auctioneer withdraw the price at 5, at 7, so the winner will be the bidder who submit the at 6. Okay, but they have to pay 7 to buy the price. And after auction, please remind that, because at the beginning I already give them 10. And actually the price of the non-certified screen product only about 7 for half of kilo for non-certified product. So the consumers, they will decide, and they have to trade up, because if they are the winner, they have to pay to get the product, and also they have to pay. They can get the rest of money. But if they are the loser, they get nothing and they pay nothing. So they have to trade up, and they have to think the strategy to answer. And after this, I repeat 4 rounds, similar 4 rounds. That's why as I mentioned before, the strengthening of auction, when you use auction, you don't have to invite a large number of respondents, because you can repeat the procedure at the same respondent. Because at the first time, actually, when they give you the answer, their answer, they don't have any information. But after this, at each crowd, we can give them about the price, and then they will have the true strategy to get the true price, to be the winner. And when we repeat so many times, so many rounds, we can get the stable data. And as step 5, I will pay for the participant fee and complete the questionnaire with relating to the willingness to pay modeling. It means that I will use the information to apply for the econometric method to design or to estimate the factor affecting to the willingness to pay or something like this. And here's the result. After 4 rounds, I can get the mean of the bid of the respondent around 4.5 US dollar per kilo. And as I mentioned, the price of non-certified is around 7 US dollar per kilo, and it means that 3.5 US dollar per half a kilo. And consumers are willing to pay as 4.5. So in this case, I can conclude with the ASC certified product certification, the consumer will pay a higher price than non-certified. And also, I can use the result to estimate the factor affecting to the willingness to pay as well by 4 rounds, or I can also pull on round to the sampling, or I can use the mean of burst for as a dependent variables to get estimate the factor affected. Okay, here's my sum up. So sorry for my late. First, I can conclude that auction experiment can be applied to gain the willingness to pay or willingness to accept by real money and real goods by your own definitions, your own monitoring. And the results of auction also depend on explanation of auctioneer and the amount of money the respondent can receive when they are the winner. But remind that the auction, when you want to explore the explanation, you have to pay a lot of cost, because as the second conclusion, the amount of money the respondent can receive will be influenced through the result. So you have to choose the strategy, the price strategy, to give them how much money at the beginning. And each experiments have the strength and quickness. So you can cross-checking result between the different methods like double bound choice or auction, or single bound with auction, or open-end question with auction, to get the final result or compare the difference between the result. And the tentative scenarios and pilot survey are necessary. And sampling size and sampling, the choosing of sampling directly influence to the results of the research. Okay, that's on my topics. So please give me the question or discussion if you have. So feel free to give me, to ask me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much about the very good explanation about the auction mechanism. So this is new for us actually.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's why, because of the time limitation again, so I will invite maybe 1 or 2 questions for Dr. Dong. You can ask directly to her, or you can put the question on the chat box. If any question, yeah. Also, now there's one participant wants to ask, Ismi Blancianova. Ya. Silakan Ismi.
Ya, terima kasih Bu. Good morning Dr. Dong. I wanna ask, If in the calculation we found that we will not have the benefit of applying quality assurance, what should we do? Do we still need apply for the certification? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for actually a very good question. Actually, I feel so sorry because we don't have time and I don't have more time to introduce you on my results of the results. Actually, when I done my results, I cannot conclude that we have the benefits from quality assurance. Actually no benefits when we apply quality assurance, because actually first, when we calculate carefully about the cost, the farmers or fishermen or producer, they have to pay a lot. But now the maybe we did already discussed in the last lectures, because the price premium or additional price of the certified products now are not identified or are not specified. Careful. So actually, when we calculate, there's no benefits. There's no benefits. But when I ask, because my research I try to conduct the data along the supply chain. So when I calculate from the farmers, I recognize that that's no benefits. But after this, I try to ask from the processors, because when we apply quality assurance, the farmers will sell their product directly to processor. So I asked them about the quality, the willingness to accept, willingness to pay for the quality assurance certificate product, certified product. So willingness to accept from the farmers and willing to pay from the processor, because the processors now are the customer of the farmers. So I recognize that actually processor can pay, and they willing to pay higher price than the real price when I do the interview. In the interview, actually, the real data I get, in the real situation, the processor only pay around 6 per kilo for farmers. But when I ask them by independent ask, and I try to invite them come to the auction room, and when in the silent atmosphere, they give me the bid. They give me the bid, and they are willing to pay around at $8 per kilo. And when I ask about the expectation of farmers, actually they just expect around 7.6 $6 per kilo. They just expect if they can sell their product at 7.6 $6 per kilo, they will implement traceability, and it's already on completely matched to the processor willingness to pay, because they agree to pay at around A, but the expectation of the farmers only 7.6, so they have the capacity to cover the price from the farmers and cover the expectation of the farmers. So that's why is in this case, my recommendation in my research is, please try to sit together, and you have to and local authorities try to set up the floor price of our product with ASC certificate or quality assurance certificate. So minimum price the processor have to pay to the farmers if they apply certifications. It means this is my recommendation. And again, if we can invite, or we can call for the participant the participant of farmers to the cooperatives, and the cooperative committee can negotiate with the processor directly. But at the beginning, about the information, we have to have the information of price. And the most important is the local authorities. They have to control, they have to post the price, the public price to farmers. Farmer can get the information of price, the market price, and they can negotiate with the processors directly. We have to improve their negotiation power in the market. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And then the second question, please, Rafif Adi.
My name is Rafi Fati. I wanna ask, maybe related to Ismi question about quality assurance. If we don't apply a quality assurance, can we have non-monetary benefit?
Actually, non-monetary benefits. Yeah, as I mentioned, it's very difficult to identify. Actually, even though you already apply quality assurance, you cannot sure that your product will be get the monetary benefits. Actually, it's very difficult, because it depends on the perception, and it depends on the perceptions of the consumers, as I mentioned. Actually, because like last lecture, I already show, if you want to apply quality assurance, you recognize that it's important, but because we are the exporters, Indonesia or Vietnam are the seafood exporters. So we care about the regulation, we care about policies, we care about certification. For what? For exporting. But we cannot sure that the consumer in the importing countries, they need or not. And as experience, I already interviewed the Japanese consumers, and I observed in the supermarket, Japanese supermarket. Actually, when the shrimp of Vietnam export to the Japan, in the packet, there is no any information about quality assurance. Actually, they just write, okay, this product from Vietnam. That's all. And but the most important Japanese consumer focus on are the liabilities of the retailers and importers, because importers and retailers are in Japan. Yeah, this is the most important. Is this okay for my answer?
Okay,
Rafif?
enough, Miss. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank
Okay,
you.
actually there are two more questions, Dongsang, but because of the time limitation, I will email these to you.
Okay.
So I have to close this 3-in-1 program, but I need maybe if you have a closing remarks for these activities.
Okay.
Around 1 month.
Okay. Sure. And actually, this is the last lecture of my series topic, actually, from supply chain, from quality, from traceability, and from how can we design or can we recognize the benefits from economic side. So actually, first, I would like to thank you so much, Dr. Lady, for collaboration, and for invitation me, and it's my pleasure to join this program. It seems like I feel that your program is very great, and this is very very good program, I think, and I hope that we can have more opportunity in the future to share about the knowledge and okay, let let's do together to improve and to develop our fisheries sector. Thank you so much.
Okay, yeah. So thank you very much again for all feedbacks of our question, and then also for sharing the knowledge, and also it's open for our understanding about the quality assurance, because this is new for us, also certification of seafood products. And again, on behalf of Faculty of Fisheries and Marine Science, Brawijaya University, thank you very much again for receiving our invitation on these guest lectures. We hope that there will be another opportunity for having more collaborations in research
sure.
or publication or anything else.
Yeah.
Okay, and for all participants here, thank you very much for joining this 3-in-1 program, and also for student fisheries management subject. Don't forget for filling the attendance list, and yeah, in the chat box and also in application. Yeah, thank you very much. I have to close this 3-in-1 program for this subject, yeah, fisheries management and stock assessment course. I see also here Dr. Supapong also joined your lectures.
Okay.
Yeah, but because of the time limitation again, so maybe I will send you an email for the feedback and question from our students. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Dong-san.
Please.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Lady Sang.
Yeah. Thank you very much for
Thank you.
Ibu Wahida, and also who else here? Pak Kadafi I saw, and then also yeah. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you very much for this participation.
Okay, goodbye. See you.
Bye. Thanks, ma'am.
Dong-sang, yeah, more collaboration. The YouTube. Can okay.
Okay,
yeah,
I will send the materials.
The material, yeah, please. And then after this, I will send you the question left, because yeah, this is quite interesting topics actually, Dong-sang.
Yeah, please. Yeah, please. Please. Okay,
and also
thank you very much.
If you don't mind, please send us the your publication related to this material.
Okay, I will. Thank you.